Hello everyone, welcome to my final project presentation for CIS 9467, and the topic that I chose was to look at the mortality rates for various diseases over America. And so right here I have a bubble chart that shows us a very cool feature of Excel that I've recently learned about, how the data can be shown as spheres that can move along this graph based on the time. And I'll just click play and you'll see what I mean. So as you can see from the chart itself that the diseases of the circulatory system are the leading cause of mortality in America over the last 19 years. Little info about the chart is that the y-axis represents the average deaths per that have occurred in the thousands, and the x-axis is the average crude rate for that year. And on the right, we have the states. So we can select a particular state, for example, Alabama, to see what the effects look like in that state. And lastly, as I may have forgot to mention, that the size of the circles is the average age-adjusted death rate of that particular state or America for that disease, which just means that it's the deaths that occur in the normalized population per 100,000 by that disease. So I found this very interesting to see that disease of the circulatory system has been leading so far by a lot. And now let's look at another pivot chart that I've made. So in this chart, you'll be able to see that age-adjusted death rate for circulatory system diseases actually decreased significantly from 1999 to what it is right now, which may have not been as evident with this chart right here, because it's not as easily visible. But in the line chart, I think it's very easy to see what we're talking about. Now, I also have slicers for this chart so that we can compare for a particular disease. For example, if I wanted to look at just diseases of, I want to look at all of the diseases without looking at diseases of the circulatory system because I think it skews the result, I can press Control and left click here, and it removes disease of the circulatory system from my chart. And now I can clearly see that external causes of morbidity and mortality have actually been on the rise in America and now have beaten diseases of the respiratory system at this point in time. But this is up till 2018. I'm sure with COVID-19, disease of the respiratory system actually represents a larger number of deaths in America, and probably more than the diseases of external morbidity and mortality. So now I want to talk a little bit about how you can create these charts yourself, and I'll just show you in a second. So this is the data that I collected. I collected this data from a website called CDC Wonder. Now this is a database for various research topics that are related for epidemiological research, for example, the mortality rates or the rates for different demographic data like obesity and such. So you can zone in on any kind of data that you want that the CDC has collected over the years very easily by selecting, for example, like if you want the results to be grouped by state here, what you want in your results to be. For example, if I wanted the leading causes of death, or if I wanted to look into injury or mechanisms or drug and alcohol induced injuries, and if I wanted to look at it broken by year. And you can very easily get the results through this, and you can select age-adjusted rates here or other things that might be of interest to researchers. You can also zone in on states here, pick the states that you want, the urbanization levels, the age groups, the gender, the race, the Hispanic origin, the year, even specific causes of deaths. And so this is where I collected my data, and I think it's a very useful tool. So here I have the data for the various diseases that I'm looking at, and the years that the data was collected for, the crude rate, and the age-adjusted rate. Now, let's begin with creating the Power Review bubble chart that you just witnessed earlier. Now we select the data, we click Power View, ask us if we want to create a Power View sheet, and I hit OK. So now we're here at a blank sheet, and it doesn't look like what we want it to look like right now. So we go here while it's on the Design tab, where it says Other Chart. We select Scatter. And now it gives us a scatter chart, but this is still not what we want it to look like. So let's see if we can make some adjustments. Well, let's start by taking out these X values and Y values. So now we have an empty chart. I want the circles to be represented by the disease's color. The colors of the circle to be represented by the disease name. So I move ICD chapter to color. I don't want state anywhere yet. I'll take it out for now. So I want year to be the play axis, so that we have that button there available to go through the years. I want the crude rate to be the x-axis, the age-adjusted death rate to be the size, and the deaths to be the y. I also want to adjust these all to be the averages rather than the sums, because then it gives a higher figure than what it should be. Now we have a very similar looking graph. I also want to have the ability to filter based on the state, as I showed earlier. So I'll left click and then move state off here so it's a table of its own. And while it's highlighted, I'm still in the Design tab and I click Slicer. Now this has become a slicer, so I can look at the data for individual states. I also want to do a little bit of cleaning since the legend is redundant here, since the data labels are on the chart. I click on the chart, I go to Layout, I go to Data Labels, I go to Legend, and I click None. And I don't want the title to be there because I feel like it's unnecessary and it's taking space, so I also click None. And it takes off the chart title. And now I have a very similar chart to what I just showed you earlier. And now you know how to do it in Excel. So I'll also show how we can create the pivot chart that I mentioned earlier. We have our data selected, we go to Insert, and we go to Pivot Chart. We select the table range, which is this already, and we click OK. So while we have this selected, we can start entering our data information. So I want state to be filters, I want ICD chapter to be legend, I want year to go on the x-axis, and I want the y values to be the age-adjusted death rate. Now, as I can see, this has given me a column chart, but I don't want a column chart. So I'll right click this and I'll change chart type and click line and click OK. And now I have the data as I wanted it earlier. Also, I don't want it to be the sum of age adjusted. I want it to be average. So I'll right click that, and then when I get to this box, I pick average and hit OK. And voila, I have the same chart that lets me see the information I wanted to. Again, I wanted to add slicers for state and year. Let's say I also wanted for the ICD chapter, as I may have mentioned earlier, that. So for example, if I wanted to see what this data would look like without disease circulatory system, I can remove that. And now I can see that the granularity of the other diseases more clearly. So this is the end of my presentation. I hope you all got a chance to learn something new about Excel. And I just want to thank my classmate John for showing me the info about bubble charts and how to make them. And well, thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.